According to the DHS review, state voter rolls and public records, they identified approximately 278,000 non-citizens who are registered to vote in federal elections. Since Democrat states refuse to share their voter files, the real number is actually much higher than that. Yet, even this limited analysis found more than 250,000 foreigners illegally registered to vote.
I mean, it's so obvious that he's lying, right? Unfortunately, there's a lot of people at this point who still believe him. I'm not really sure what we can do about these people at this point, but it's very obvious he's lying because he sees the writing on the walls and he knows that he's going to get absolutely blown out in these midterms. So he's trying to preempt it. This idea that there's all these thousands of votes out in the system that's like polluting the integrity of elections is complete fantasy, straight up. He keeps touting this number of 250,000 of 278,000 people that are implied to like have voted illegally, but when you see what they're actually publishing, look into like what they're actually saying, and that number starts to dwindle very, very fast. When looking into this, I could not for the life of me find where they made these numbers up. Like I genuinely think they just made these numbers up because I couldn't figure out where they got this information from. They say that 250,000 exactly, 250,000 were from California. And of course, it makes sense that the majority would be from California. Even outside of like non-political reasons, we're the biggest, most populous state in the nation. 1 in 9 Americans are Californians. It's just a numbers thing, but like there's no source. I can't find where they got these numbers from. The DHS has their sources. They don't give any sort of explanation as to how they arrived at these numbers. So I'm led to believe that, when they're not too busy murdering Americans or, just murdering people in general, that they're, punching out these numbers and figuring out that there are these people that are registered to vote who are not supposed to be registered to vote. But even when you see like this larger number of 278,000, when you see like, okay, what does that mean? Like you see that it's not actually that big of a deal, really. They're blowing up something that we have a system for this. There's a reason that these numbers are caught. I'm not even saying that like they're making up the number, but I'm saying there's a reason, like we know that this number exists because we have a system in place already. When you register to vote, you are doing this under penalty of perjury, of course, that, you're a citizen, you're eligible. You can't be a felon in most states, I think. All these things have to be in order. You're over 18, but we can see like we have like in the voter rolls, we can see like, okay, let me check. This guy's a citizen. This guy's a citizen. And then we can flag whenever we're like, okay, we don't think this person is a citizen. We need to look into this. And nearly half of the country is registered to vote, one way or another. I know, at least here in California, through the DMV, like it's not an automatic thing, but it's pretty close to automatic. Whenever you have to do anything, they're like, hey, are you registered to vote? Like we're a government office. We can register, like if you need to, I don't know, whatever you're here for. But yeah, that means that like about 150 million people are registered to vote. I was actually reading this case study that they did out in Ohio. This is the Heritage Foundation, which is a very right-wing think tank. And they looked through like the Ohio voting rolls and they saw that Ohio had about 308 people that were registered illegally to vote. They did not vote illegally. Very big distinction. 200 of them have never cast a ballot, and only about 20 of them cast a ballot illegally and they were looked into, which is a far cry. I'm sure in some municipal elections, 20 votes can be very close. If all these people were like in some tiny town, might be enough to sway an election. Bigger scheme of things, not really. And furthermore, it's really worth pointing out that like when they do find these people that like vote illegally, they usually say that like, oh, I thought I could vote illegally. I thought I had like all my papers in order, or like they didn't realize that like they were a felon and they couldn't vote. It was things of this nature where they genuinely thought that like I am legally able to vote. It's none of this like racketeering RICO nonsense that they're kind of trying to make it sound like, where it's like some sort of conspiracy that like everyone's in on it and there's like some sort of collusion to sway the election. One of the people that Reuters ended up interviewing, she just thought she could vote. There's this older like 70-year-old lady, and apparently she didn't have her papers in order. She ends up getting deported by Trump during the second Trump administration recently. And of course, the irony of all of this is she voted for Trump. She voted for Trump illegally in 2016. And because of that, she got deported. But yeah, the second Trump administration has been cracking down a lot on this. They keep making such a big stink about it. So surely you would think, oh wow, they must have cracked down and gotten like a bunch of people like, deported and stuff. Reuters looked into this. Is a little out of date. Maybe it's been a few more than this. But it's about 40 people that they've gotten in the last 2 years. 40 people, they're spending all of this tax money trying to crack down on this non-issue. That's really what it is. He can harp on all he wants about this, but he only has 40 prosecutions to show for all this bluster, all this extra funding that we're giving the DHS and stuff. Again, they're very busy killing Americans, but this is supposed to be part of their duties too. Of course, it wouldn't be a Trump speech if he didn't constantly harp on about China. When I heard him talk, I immediately picked up on what he was trying to say, and because I have worked with voter information in the past, I immediately knew this isn't that hard to do. What China, what he's accusing China of doing is not that difficult to do. If they have money, they can straight up buy a lot of this information, and they do. They have the money for it. And I'm sure that's how they got most of this voter information from. I interned for a congressperson a couple years ago, and one of my things, well, it was a two-front job. Basically, the first half of my internship was sort of consolidating all these voter or constituent information, because we had a lot of duplicates. People would go to different town halls, and even though they were already signed up, they would re-sign up for being part of the email list. And I had to consolidate them into separate blocks, because they couldn't email if, depending on how they got the information. I don't remember, this was a while ago, but I remember I had to go okay, these we can email and we won't get sued into oblivion, and these guys we can email free, and it's fine. But yeah, basically they had a bunch of these town hall meetings or constituent calls and stuff, and I ended up having to consolidate everything, and then we ended up switching platforms to email through a different program. I don't know where they got all this information, but it's totally possible that they straight up bought a lot of this info. And I don't know, from what the intelligence community has gathered, it doesn't seem like China particularly influenced at least the 2020 election. There was more of a big hubbub when Russia was influencing the 2016 election. The way these states really work through is it's more of a soft power thing, using social media and stuff to try to convince you that you should not vote for a certain candidate, or you should vote for a certain candidate. And all this stuff just rings so hollow. If some certain right-wing commentators recently, I think 2 years ago, they got caught because they were literally on Russian payroll money. They were straight up taking money from Russia, and the Russians weren't even telling them to change what they were doing. They're nah, you guys are great. Keep posting what you're posting. And it's does it suck that we're not the ultra mega powerhouse anymore, and we can be interfered with? Yes, obviously, I would prefer we have free and fair elections. I mean, I would prefer that we were very well educated when we were voting. I would prefer that people didn't think that Trump was the second coming of Christ. But I don't really know. This rings so hollow to me when we're literally killing the leader of Iran, capturing the leader of Venezuela, threatening to do the same thing to Cuba. It's is it bad that China's doing influencing our elections? Sure, but we're literally kidnapping political leaders, man. And again, like I said at the beginning of the video, he's obviously doing this because he knows that he's going to get blown the fuck out in 2026 in this current midterm. We'll see what happens in 2028. People tend to have really bad memories, and like I said at the beginning of the video, it's very apparent to me that he's doing this because of the midterms. He knows he's going to get blown the fuck out. He knows that right now the generic ballot is +6 for Democrats, which is pretty high for even a midterm. Usually, the party that isn't in charge they switched during the midterms, you know, back during like Obama, the Republicans gained control of the House and the Senate. And I think during Biden, the same thing happened. So it's not going to be surprising to me. I think it happened to a lesser extent with Biden, but it definitely looks like there's going to be a big push for Democratic candidates. And it makes sense. Gas is still very expensive. It's only getting more expensive. Speaking of China, I just found out that the reason that like gas isn't like $8 a gallon right now is because they've been using their reserves to like bring down like the pressure for gas for oil. They've essentially like stopped taking in shipments. They're like, no, we're good for right now. Because I remember when this whole Iran war started, that we only had a certain amount of reserves. You know, there was a good chance we were going to run out, and then it would be really bad. A big reason that we haven't hit that point yet, and hopefully we don't hit that point because it would be really bad, is because China has been supplementing with like very large oil reserves. And obviously, this is more of a soft power move for them. They know that strategically they can be a little vulnerable to oil shocks. So this is them basically buffing out their chest and going, we can tank it, take over Taiwan one day. Like, you're not going to be able to do anything about it because we can outlast you in a sort of situation where we need to fight. But yeah, it's super apparent to me that like the second the Republicans get blown out, Trump is going to call fraud. They're going to do everything in their power to not let these people take office. You know, he's ass mad, you know. Never read the Constitution, obviously. He doesn't know that like states have like ultimate control over elections and stuff. I'm sure he wishes he had like these sort of voter rolls that he could like personally like meddle and interfere with them. But the fact that he doesn't is, I think, going to drive him up a wall. I don't know what he's going to do. He's threatening to withhold like funding for states at this point. It's getting very desperate. I'm a little worried about what like his plan is going to be come November. And this has always just been about Trump just being a sore loser. Even when he won in like 2016, he argued that it was rigged because he lost the popular vote. He even did like some sort of committee to like find to prove it, but like obviously nothing came out of it. And it's just ridiculous that like he somehow has this tremendous power to win when he's the outsider. You know, Obama was in charge. His first go at it, and then like Biden was in charge the second go at it, and like somehow these Democrats, these like deep state like operatives, weren't able to stop him from gaining power. But you know, when he has power in 2020 and then he loses to Biden, he starts crashing out. He starts saying everything's rigged. And you know, we've been litigating this for 6+ years almost at this point, and it's been the same thing from the courts where it's like, nope, everything seems pretty in order. You know, I forgot which state they ended up having. I think it was Arizona. They ended up doing a recount, and it's like, oh no, actually Biden won by more points. Like I guess we didn't count some of these ballots. Whoops. And then again in 2024, he ends up winning. He calls it a historic mandate, despite the fact that it wasn't like a close call, but you know, I wouldn't call it a blowout either. Obama put up better numbers than him. He barely did better than I would say maybe Biden in 2020. So it's like the third like closest election I think that we've had. But yeah, to conclude, all of this is just a fear monger to disenfranchise votes through like the SAVE Act. Because at the end of the day, it's like, what is an ID? What's your birth certificate going to do? Like these sort of extra hurdles that they try to add. It's like, okay, and then China's just gonna take your information anyway, and then what? Like all this stuff just hurts more than anything. It makes it harder for people to, you know, vote. We have these systems. Like I have to like keep stressing the fact that it's like we have these systems. You've prosecuted about 40 people in the last 2 years that have voted illegally in like the last 3 elections. Like this is just not happening. Like this isn't an issue that like needs to be resolved. Like obviously it's not a good thing that like people, you know, they don't understand, because it's like they are not doing this out of malice for the most part. The majority of people that like Reuters, that like other people have interviewed, they say like, oh, I thought I could vote legally. I didn't know I couldn't vote, and now I'm a big shit for it. But yeah, that's all I have for this video. Comment if you want me to talk about anything else that's going on. I took a bit of a break. It's summer break, and my schedule is really bad right now. I'm somehow more productive when, I have like finals and stuff, like breathing down my neck. During summer break, it all just goes to shit. But if you have anything else you want to talk about, there's been a lot of things that I haven't had the chance to cover. Please let me know. I hope to talk to you guys sooner than later. Like always, please take care of yourselves.